Good evening, everyone, and welcome. At this time, I will call the March the 27th regular Paulding County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. And we're very happy to have Ms. Nancy Hollingshed, who's the chairman of the Republican Party here in Paulding County, to bring us our invocation. And then our Cub Scout Group 750, led by Tina Gruber, will come in and lead us in our pledge to the flag. Stand if you're able.
Okay, everyone, just real quick, in this week of Holy Week, the Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you. He who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of the Spirit who lives in you. Father, we just want to come before your throne today and ask that you bless this meeting and that you would bless each and every one of us, that we would remember what this week is all about. We ask that you would be with our county and protect our law enforcement and our public safety people. And we just bless this and all in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Scouts attention. Scout salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Thank you, boys. You are dismissed.
Thank you, Cub Scout Troop 750. Brian, if you bring the list forward, please, and if you have any cell phones you need to turn off, take care of that. Under minutes, action on the March 13th, 2018 work session minutes and the March 13th, 2018 board meeting minutes. May I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Pownell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Action on March 21st, 2018, leadership mini conference that's held just a couple of days. We need to also approve those minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Collette. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Crowe. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining, as I had a scheduling conflict at when that mini conference was rescheduled, so I wasn't able to.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0 and 1 abstention. Under announcements, for the chairman to update House Bill 930, which is a bill designed to provide new structure to the transit system around the Atlanta metropolitan area. You know, there are a lot of bills that really just have, this is the second to last voting day, the last day will be Thursday. But there was some interest in this bill from a transit standpoint. We had been involved in that for the better part of a year as far as committing from an interest standpoint. The bill creates ATL, which is the Atlanta Region Transit Link, and it kind of consolidates while doing away with Greta and MARTA. There's one other acronym in there that would consolidate. So it's to establish governance and accountability for our transit system here in Paulding County, and it reduces the 13 counties in the metropolitan area to 10 districts, and we would be in a district that is connected with Cobb County. I've spoken with Chairman Boyce, the chairman of Cobb County 4 times in the last 2 weeks, and he's actually had a staff member seated down at the Capitol as it's kind of gone from the Senate back to the House, and then went into conference, and actually thought it would be passed in one form or another by now. But it's just to integrate and coordinate and then fund this new organization. And Commissioner Pownell and I have also been in touch with people today where apparently it's in the Lieutenant Governor's hands. So I've also asked our DOT Director, Paulding County DOT Director George Jones, kind of to add a little more meat, just since there was interest, to give us a minute or two on what it would be about.
Yeah, exactly, Chairman. You said it's pretty much what it's about, but at the start of the session there were 2 bills. There was a House Bill 930, but there was also a Senate bill. And as the session's gone along, Senate Bill 386 and also House Bill 930, they've taken parts of 386 and put it into 930. So there's been a little bit of change. Paulding County is considered one of the non-attainment counties. That's why it's able to be in this part of House Bill 930.
George, you pull that mic a little closer. Sure. Okay. Everybody in the back can hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. We're one of the non-attainment counties. Non-attainment is considered an area where we are currently or previously deemed to have excess levels of ozone, carbon monoxide, or particulate matter in violation of the Clean Air Act. And like you said, this bill creates the Atlanta Region Transit Link ATL Commission. Initially, there's 14 board members. If a county approves a referendum for the transit tax, then they would also be put on this appointment to the board of directors for ATL Link Commission. Prior to calling a referendum, any county must deliver written notice to your mayors in your municipality, in the county, the CEO of MARTA, and a designee of the Atlanta Link Commission. You have to create a project list for this. The project list has to be vetted by Atlanta Link, which can approve or deny all projects within this submitted list. As part of the bill right now, the way I read it, all rail-based transit services funded by this tax will be operated by the Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority or any successor to MARTA. There's also an agreement that any transit services which are not rail-based, that are funded by the proceeds of a proposed tax, shall be selected by the Atlanta Link Commission. The sales and use tax is for a period of 30 years, or if you have a project list and those projects are funded before the end of that 30-year time period, say 29 years, the tax will end at that time. Each tax will identify the location. Never mind, don't worry about that. This tax is not subject to congressional balancing, which is important for any project and funds. That's pretty much it. If you want to read the text of the law right now, I think it's down to 16 pages. You get to look at words like conterminous, non-attainment, and situs. It'll expand your vocabulary, if nothing else.
But the Senate bill was over 100 pages, right?
Last time I looked, it was at 77. So yeah, it's really good reading. I recommend it anyway.
Okay.
Hey George, do you have that where you could email it to us?
I do. I'll leave it.
Do that?
Yes.
I would like to read it.
That actually got started a year ago, January 26th of 2017. It's House Bill 160. The information that I've pulled up the last 2 days. And then it went back and forth or whatever, but the Senate tabled it on March 28th of 17. And then the Senate basically took it from the table January 8th of this year. So then we've now got, they were working on, I guess, what was House Bill 930 and then Senate Bill 386. And then they've combined it into 930. that's correct. So I've heard a couple things late this evening. And you and I, Vernon, just talked in the hall just a few minutes ago about a couple of things. I just want to make sure that, for one, that our citizens need to know what's going on. But I also want to make sure that, you know, I hear that maybe ACCG's recommending that they're recommending something. Was Lieutenant Governor K.C. Cable going to do something, but now he's not going to do something, Mr. Chairman? There's and if they're looking for a recommendation from somebody, I would like to know who they're looking for that recommendation from, because if they're, and no disrespect, but if they're looking from a recommendation from the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, that's not from the Board of Commissioners.
No, it's one of the reasons I brought it up tonight is there's one more day, Thursday, and this development with Lieutenant Governor, a court from Chairman Boyce, Cobb County was supposed to be linked up with them, as I said this morning. The Lieutenant Governor appears to want input from the outlying counties. So I need to hear from post commissioners, and you know, if I have to drive down there tomorrow to find him, if that's what's needed, that's what I'll do.
Well, I guess we have some work to do, George, because I guess you're fixing to push the button to send what you have now to us, because I have gotten all kind of things yesterday and today, and I guess that's really my point, is I'm hearing different things from different people, and if they're really looking, if Mr. Cagle's looking for a recommendation from the board, that recommendation can only come from the board by the way of each of us individually sending him something, or we take some sort of a vote on it, of which we don't have everything to do that with right now. And you know, whether I'm getting the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to leave the meeting tonight and then all of a sudden be told that you gave them direction on something that we didn't give them, and that's nothing negative towards you, but you're one vote out of 5. And I want to understand what we're doing, and I don't want to wake up Friday morning and say, well, you know, your all's chairman said this, because that's not right for us as the Board of Commissioners, because we are the voice of the people, and it's not right for the citizens to hear it that way. If I'm going to speak up, whether I believe in it or not, I need to be able to do it before it happens.
Well, I think it would just, you know, I guess we can talk about this under announcements. I just put it on there to fulfill the interest that came out this morning.
You could add something to the agenda if that's what you want to do. You can do a motion to add something to the agenda once we get to new business. But, you know, you'd like to add an agenda item, or
I'll be glad to tell you that I'm not sure what I would want to add, but what I don't want to do is wake up Friday morning and find out that somebody gave direction on something that really wasn't something that came from the board. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that won't happen, Commissioner Pownell. And, you know, as I've talked with our representatives and 2 senators during this whole 40-day process, you know, not every day, but we've got free reign to pick up the phone and call any of them, and they always appreciate hearing from us. So we can do it collectively as a board under new business, but I think we need to get a little more educated, because there have been so many changes. It's like the weather. You read about it one day and then something's been added and changed.
Hang on.
Yes.
Are we supposed to not have a discussion now?
I'd rather you add something to the
Okay.
agenda.
I'll make a motion.
That wasn't that subtle.
I'll make a motion we add it to the agenda, because I do not understand this. I just found out about it a couple of days ago, and I would like it. So I'll make a motion that we add it to the agenda.
What do you want to add? What would be the wording?
Discuss House Bill, what, 380 or 930?
930. So the item number 6 Commissioner Collette is asking to add an item to the agenda to discuss House Bill 930. That's the motion he made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0 for new business number 6.
Which would be just to discuss House Bill 930.
Correct.
Okay.
Under invited guests, we have none. Under bid awards, none. Reports from committees and departments, none this evening. We do have someone who, no one signed up to participate in agenda items, so Mr. Smith will come later. Right on non-agenda items. So they'll come later. Consent agenda. Action on 4 consent agenda items. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Collette. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Crowe. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We have no old business. Under new business, action to authorize the chairman to enter into a contract with Heath and Lineback Engineers in the amount of $119,669.62 for preliminary engineering design services for the Burnt Hickory Road Stout Parkway Brownsville Extension Intersection Improvement Project. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Collette. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Crowe. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 2, action to approve the chairman to enter into an agreement with Lovin Contracting Company Incorporated for the fiscal year 2018 countywide shoulder maintenance services contract for the same contract unit rates in the previous contract in the total amount of $770,477.70. The contract provides multiple cycles for mowing, trimming, and litter pickup on 550 miles of county roads and 21 miles of 4-lane state routes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Pownell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collette. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 3, action to adopt resolution 18-14, an ordinance to provide for the regulation and licensing of farm winery tasting rooms. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Crowe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Gilbert brought some wine for after me.
Gotta watch them when we get open.
New business number 4 is action to approve professional service agreement with J. Glenn Richardson to continue council services for the Paulding County Board of Tax Assessors.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Pownell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collette. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to just make a couple comments. For the public's sake, I previously opposed this. We terminated our relationship with Tyler Richardson Cable after Mr. Cable participated in the signing over of land on the last day of Mr. Austin's administration in preparing that deed. We terminated that relationship, and I'm glad that we were able to keep Lonnie. And sorry, I didn't know what was happening there. When it came time to vote on Mr. Richardson continuing representation for the tax assessors, I opposed that because we had gone through the motion and through the vote, the whole process of terminating the relationship with that law firm. And knowing at the time Lynn Richardson's not a partner in that firm, he's the term is of counsel, which is, I understand it, he rents a room in that building, and so he's not actually with that firm. But I was struggling with this because sometimes the votes that we make are no-brainers up here, and some of them you sweat over you a little bit. I didn't really have peace on this until really late last night, as I had finished preparing for the meeting today, and my personal preference is that the county would never pay anybody in that building another dime to do anything. But my job here is to do what I think is best for the county. And Mr. Richardson's a good attorney. He's handling those cases well. And the good of the county is that we continue using him as the tax assessor's board. So I will be voting in favor of this for those reasons. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. For those of you that weren't here this morning, we've had some improvements.
Can we expect this?
Who's control
One
that?
of the improvements?
We're still having technical difficulties.
We are streaming live, so if somebody's laughing with us out there. New business number 5 is action to adopt resolution 18-15, confirming executive session for the purpose of real estate potential impending litigation. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Pownell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Collette. Tie. All those in favor say
If I could clarify,
Yeah.
I think you're about to clarify what I am too.
Go for it.
We listed this morning that we would go in for personnel as well. We did not actually talk about personnel, and that's why it's not on the affidavit and resolution this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business item number 6 is discuss House Bill 930, the Transit ATL Atlanta Region Transit Link. A little more history, as Commissioner Pownell stated, and I'd said earlier, it began a year ago just asking for Paulding County's interest in the asking, or the question came from ARC, Atlanta Regional Council. And so that's over a year ago, and my response was, we would like to be involved in any conversations about this. So didn't want to be excluded and miss out on any opportunities. So now we get into this General Assembly, and it heats up a little bit, and apparently there are some politics involved. Agree?
Yeah.
Let's take a level. Seem to be now.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about it. I mean, I talked to 2 constituents over the weekend, very concerned about this bill. Heard a lot of negative, I've heard a lot of positive. I've tried to research. I have called some of our local delegates, and they're extremely busy right now, and they have said they'd get me something that has not happened yet. And I've tried to find the bill online, and that hasn't been as easy, and it seems like it changes as fast as you get your hands on it. It seems like it's all of a sudden come up quickly. I like to do my homework. Todd asked me in the hall, said, "We're going to bring this up," and I said, "No, because I don't know enough about it to bring it up. I don't know what I'd say." But the bad thing about that is they're voting on this either tomorrow or Thursday. So tonight I'm going to go home, and I don't know how long we have to look at this, but I'm going to read that and try to make a decision and get back with you. There are some things in it that I do not like, if what I heard is actually in it. Have I seen it in there? No, I have not. That's why I want to see it. I want to read it for myself. And then I think we can have a discussion. I don't know what we're going to do, though, because we won't meet again before Thursday to say we do or don't support it. And just because ACCG, who I have a lot of respect for, supports something, it doesn't mean it's best for Paulding County, or it doesn't mean that the citizens of this county would like that. So we got a lot of homework to do.
I'm burning on this. I have not, I found out about it last week, and from last week to now, the bill was changed around, and wound up being House Bill 930. And I've not read the 78 pages now.
16.
I mean,
Yeah, it's been short now.
16.
okay. I've not seen this, and if it's a surprise to this board, it's certainly a surprise to the citizens of the county, so I too will be looking into this tonight.
You know, there's no question, anybody who lives in Paulding County, that we have traffic issues. We have a lot of growth, that we need additional connector roads, and we need additional traffic lights and roundabouts and all these things. So, again, this is a replacement of Greta and a replacement, or a new name for MARTA, and bringing in some new technology. I just want us in the game. You know, I don't want us to be in a bad game, but I don't want us to be left out. You got any comments?
Yeah, when I look at this, and we've looked at different efforts over the years to sort of reform transit in the region, one of the big things is rebranding MARTA and making it into something that other counties would accept besides the 4 counties that already support MARTA. What this really does is give us the option locally to take out a referendum to the public to vote on an additional penny to raise money for transit projects. Nothing happens if we don't vote on it locally. It creates the framework to, over time, expand the transit region to include some of the outer counties. So until we do something here locally, the way it reads now, there's nothing imposed on our citizens. It puts the mechanism in place because right now you have a cap on how much splosh you can do locally. So there's language in there about raising the ability to add another penny, for instance. There's half pennies and other options in here as well. So it's a little complicated when you look at that, but again, unless it comes to our citizens for a vote, I don't see that it has any impact on us. I think this is a regional effort to, over time, address the commute problems we have and the mobility around Atlanta. And there is really no money for transit expansion. They've struggled over time to, whether you take money away from roads and bridges to do transit at the expense of roads and bridges, which is a very difficult decision because we don't have enough money for roads and bridges. So it is a difficult issue. They're struggling for a mechanism to raise money. But to me, this looks like a voluntary program. But it is an expansion. It is more oversight. It's an umbrella agency that combines a lot of the transit functions into one umbrella agency. And I think a lot of the counties want that umbrella. They want more oversight in what happens. And there's a lot of control I think this is putting in place for that effort to build trust. I think this is to have management in a program that people could get behind over time with the right leaders involved. So I'm glad to look at it more, but I don't see anything more than that. It gives us an option to opt in type thing.
And I understand what you're saying, Scott, and I believe you're 100% right. It's going to come down to this referendum, and originally I think in its original form it was not a referendum. I think it's now morphed to there is a referendum, and that's where it should be, because the people Paulding County should make this decision. I don't think it's about traffic lights and roads. I think it's all dealing with buses and trains. So in essence, it's just like saying, do you want MARTA in Paulding County? That's what I want to find out, because I will make a stand on it, and I'd like my stand to be known before they vote.
I mean, the short answer is no, I don't believe this is. It's not forcing us to take a train or a specific improvement. It's giving us the option when we're ready.
My suggestion to the board is that you can read the bill this evening and then get what your thoughts are on it to both the chairman and myself, because I believe I can get a message to KCK.
It might be something people should decide.
Well, I know that, I forget who the sponsor was to Senate Bill 386. It slipped my mind, but the House Bill, okay, House Bill 930 was Kevin Cannon. Kevin and I had played phone tag today because he's down there working, and he said it may be midnight tonight, but he will get back with me on it. Just, and Scott, I think you're correct with a lot of it, but what has concerned me is it's changed a lot from last year to where we are now, and it's been ever changing, because at first it didn't have it in there that the voters were going to vote on it. And so it's kind of hard to read something that's changed as many times as it's changed, because it's changed a lot in the last 3 or 4 days. So yeah, I'd like for us to make sure that we get the information and pass that along how we should pass it along.
Well, electronically, you get something to Mr. Skipper and myself, say by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and you and I talk, and then we'll get it out to our state delegation along with Lieutenant Governor. I think we can get it to him also.
Well, I know Lonnie can.
Any other discussion? Okay, nothing we need to vote on. That's the conclusion of our regular business. We have no executive session. We have Mr. George Smith will come forward on a non-agenda item, the Marshals Bureau. Mr. Smith? And is this the 5-minute limitation?
I've got some documents for each of you.
Just bring them up, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm George Smith. I'm a Paulding County resident. I've lived in my home on Wilbank Circle for 27 years. My wife was with me. We're in Commissioner Davis's district. This is an older neighborhood with many senior citizens in it. And the reason I'm calling tonight is in reference to the Marshals Bureau, particularly their refusal to take an anonymous complaint. And I give each of you all a package in bold. There's some couple of paragraphs I want you to read. Please discuss it amongst yourselves. Discuss it with your management team, the county manager, the sheriff, the marshal, and even some of the division managers, in reference to an unfortunate incident that I had personally with the marshal's office. Particularly, I got a neighbor. We all have neighbors, and some are unpleasant. I had a very, very unpleasant incident with a neighbor, and I was asked by the county clerk to not repeat the language that was directed at me. But I can assure you I was on the receiving end of a good cussing, because my neighbor, in his infinite wisdom, decided he would get a pig, and naturally he didn't think anybody would notice. Well, according to the zoning law, we can't have that in a residential neighborhood. So I feel very strongly like, we're all adults here. We can agree that being on the receiving end of good cussing, it's unnerving, and it's unnecessary. And just put it nicely, it's unpleasant. Again, my wife and I have lived in our house for 27 years. Our kids went to Paulding County High, East Paulding High. We haven't moved. Paul's been a great place to raise a family. It's been a great place to live, but when you got one or two bad apples moving a neighborhood, you bring the whole neighborhood down. What I'm making is your policy, Chairman, your policy that requires, it's my understanding, your policy requires somebody to go to a website, download a form, fax it in, and all that's public information that could have very easily wound up into violence against me, against my family. The duty of each one of you commissioners is to make Paulding County a great place to live. We shouldn't turn a blind eye towards trash, towards litter, towards junk cars. I even had a guy on my street had an oven in his yard. Just sitting there in the yard for months and months and months and months. And you're like, every time somebody drives by, you wonder, did the marshal see that? Did the sheriff's deputy see that? If you're standing in the middle of a street and can look and see a violation, you should address it. That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't have to wait until a citizen goes to the website, downloads the form and fax it in, and wait, and wait, and wait. You know, again, I attached a photograph of, as well as some additional information. One of the ladies at the marshal's office attached an email, and I'm giving you a copy of it, trying to explain why they don't take an anonymous complaint. But I submit to you that the marshal can put everything that they do on the website. The sheriff's office does. I put it out there today. I pulled up a copy of the jail law, and you can see inmate number 2 here was took in for DUI. Inmate number 6 was theft by taker. Inmate number 8 was drugs. Even got some probation and some various bit. It's all on the website. You go to the website right now, pull it up. It's all there. Why can't the marshal say, I busted somebody over here on Macklin Road, this one on Bobo, this one over here on Wilbanks, that one down there on Depot. I wrote these tickets, and I'm taking care of a nuisance. You should be able to look at that and see that if an average person can stand in the street and look, see a problem, you should be able to address it without having to have a citizen complain. And again, this business of not taking anonymous complaints could have led to violence against me and against my wife. It was that bad. We had to call 911. And 2 deputies arrived. You know, the bottom line is, do you want your town, your county to grow into a village where lawbreakers can intimidate you and keep your mouth shut and remain silent about their violation of the law? Or do you want us to stand up and say, that's enough, something's got to be done? We all want safe streets, good schools, desirable neighborhoods, and increased property values. But silence speaks consent. If you remain silent, you're intimidated in silence by some unpleasant neighbors. It's not right. Again, if the marshal can stand in the middle of the street and see something, he should address it. Thank you. In conclusion, thank you, Commissioner Pownell,
Yes, sir.
Deputy Marshal Biggs, Chief Hess, and 2 deputies, Sheriff's, one was Morris, and I don't know the other. But they tried to smooth out a very unpleasant situation. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I want to thank you for what you just said. In my post, I have a lot of constituents who know, and they'll call me and say, hey, I'm scared. I don't want anyone to know that I'm reporting this because I'm scared of retaliation. I think it is a legitimate concern. When I get those calls, I personally usually go out and check out the situation. If it is warranted, I make sure the marshal get on it, and they do not ever know who made the call.
Mr. Smith, I do that also, and I'll give you my number. I don't mean to interrupt you, Vernon. I'll give you my number at the end of the meeting. You're welcome to call me on that. I'll be happy to do that. I've been doing that same thing.
I want to explain one situation, because I did have a lady call and talking about how her neighbor needed to be cited. I shouldn't even say lady, just a person called and said that the neighbor needed to be cited and told me why. Went out and checked it out, and what the person was telling me was not true. Did a little more research, talked to both people and a little bit further, and there had been a war between the two. They used to be very good neighbors, used to go on trips together, but something happened, now they hated each other. So So this one person is really just trying to aggravate and harass the other person. So there is a double-edged sword. It does happen, but you're right. We need to address it some way because I agree with you. It can be intimidating for someone to know that, hey, I'm the person that turned it in and now they're going to retaliate against me. So we do need to look at this and come up with something. We'll throw that in Frank Baker's lap. He ain't got nothing to do.
I'm sorry.
Nope, you go ahead.
I hear you loud and clear. You're not the first person that's told me, Mr. Crow, I've got a neighbor over the way here that's, these are the things they're doing, but I'm afraid to say anything because I can't remain anonymous. And I certainly understand that, and we will address this.
Thank you.
We've gone through some changes and good improvements in our marshal, and I think you'll see those changes. I don't know the exact way.
Mr. Smith is a good friend of mine. Our kids went to school together. And I hold him in high regard. He also lives pretty close to my office, and he keeps up with what's going on in the county, good, bad, and different. We talk, and so I apologize that you had to go through what you had to go through. And sometimes we do that with neighbors, and we have to, but we'll help out in the way we can. I appreciate you being just such a class act to bring it and delivering it to us the way you did it.
And I understand you living on a busy street or your office on a busy street. I get every Sunday morning, you got the Blue Ribbon beer cans and crystal box, just open them, you know. And we all know who's doing it. There's like 1 or 2 families of riffraff, and before long, the entire subdivision will start tinkering down. It's happened time and time again. And it's beyond frustrating to pick up a beer can, but it's intimidating to get cussed out, threatened, harassed, and intimidated. And it shouldn't happen, especially when violations would be seen. If you're standing in the middle of the street and look, you will see a hog. It's 150 pounds and it stinks.
Is the hog still there?
Yes. Yeah, they get on the
It's not done yet. It's still there.
It's there, and it's you know, his name is Pork Chop. So I mean, again, I could ramble on for hours, but I think you kind of get the picture.
Yeah.
But again, I think my biggest frustration, I told the marshal, they said, you know, give us a call, we'll try to get something looked at. But if you're standing in the street and you see it, you shouldn't have to wait for the fax machines at the ring to pick up. You should be proactive rather than reactive. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank everyone for being here tonight. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
To adjourn by Commissioner Davis, or a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Crowe, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Happy Easter.